Moscow, January 4, 2023. This announcement by the Russian Ministry of Defense came a day after the announcement of the death of 63 Russian soldiers as a result of the Ukrainian bombing by HIMARS missiles on a facility in Donetsk, where Russian soldiers were stationed, in one of the bloodiest attacks on Russian forces since the start of the war. According to the statement of the Russian Ministry of Defense, the Russian forces eliminated more than 40 Ukrainian military personnel on the Kupiansk axis, and 2 sabotage and reconnaissance groups belonging to the Ukrainian forces were destroyed in the areas of the towns of Novoselovskoye and Tabayevka in the Kharkiv region. In the direction of Krasny Lyman, Russian artillery and heavy launchers attacked 4 assault detachments of Ukrainian forces in the regions of Chervenaya Dybrova in Luhansk, Novosadivoy, Serebryanka and Grigorovka in Donetsk, according to Pledge Times agency. According to the statement, the Ukrainians lost more than 120 dead and wounded, 4 armored fighting vehicles, 3 pickup trucks and 2 cars. And on the southern Donetsk axis, more than 30 Ukrainian soldiers were eliminated and 2 armored fighting vehicles and 3 pickup trucks were destroyed by artillery shelling on Ukrainian units in the regions of Prikitovka, Zolotaya Niva, and Novodonetskoye in Donetsk. The statement added that more than 130 foreign mercenaries were also neutralized by high-precision strikes of the Russian aerospace forces on points of temporary deployment of Foreign Legion units in the areas of Masliakovka settlements and the city of Kramatorsk in Donetsk. A video of a French journalist narrowly dodging a deadly Russian missile while reporting live from war-torn Ukraine is gaining attention on social media. Moments before going live for Quotidien, a popular French news program, reporter Paul Gasnier dashed for cover as a massive missile exploded in flames behind him. Mr. Gasnier and his crew were on assignment in the eastern Ukrainian town of Kramatorsk during the time and were the only ones outside. When asked about the horrifying moment by Quotidien show host Jan Barths, Mr. Gasnier recounted the crew had been out for an hour at the time of the blast, filming in front of their hotel. The entrance part of the hotel collapsed on us, the windows were shattered. It was very confusing. We were very scared, he said. The video was broadcasted by network TF1 on January 2 for a special segment during which the French journalist, on a live call, narrated the moment of impact and shared details on the aftermath. French Economy Minister Bruno Le Maire was in attendance during the segment. We had dust in our eyes and mouths, he recalled. Our hands are still shaking from the shock, but we got out without trouble. The nighttime attack left 1 person wounded and damaged 34 houses and 8 apartment blocks, reported the Kramatorsk City Council. The Russian Ministry of Defense says so many of its troops died in a recent Ukrainian attack in the Donetsk region, because soldiers were using cell phones and gave their location away. On New Year's Eve, Russian troops came under attack in the Russian-occupied Ukrainian city of Makiyivka. The Russians say they were struck by Ukrainian troops equipped with US-provided high-mobility artillery rocket system, HIMARS, launchers. But in a statement posted on the Defense Ministry's Telegram channel on Tuesday, the Russians blamed their own soldiers for allowing the enemy to locate and determine the coordinates of the location of military personnel for launching a missile strike. It is already obvious that the main reason for what happened was the switching on and massive use, contrary to the prohibition, by personnel of mobile phones in a reach zone of enemy weapons, the statement from the Russian Defense Ministry read. On Tuesday, Russia said 63 of its soldiers died in the New Year's strike by Ukrainian forces. The Defense Ministry's statement on Telegram reported a later death toll of 89. Ukraine's military reported a higher number of Russian casualties from the attack, around 400, but this figure has not been independently verified. The use of cell phones on the battlefield by Russian soldiers has become a risk for Russian soldiers. But it's been a boon for Ukraine, which has used intercepted calls to locate Russian troops since the start of the war. An investigation from the New York Times released last month found that Ukrainian forces discovered upticks in frantic calls from foreign numbers and used them to pinpoint the location of Russian troops. "We listened to the Russian soldiers as they panicked and called their friends and relatives," a Ukrainian official told the Times. They used ordinary phones to make decisions about their further moves. Representatives for the Kremlin did not immediately respond to insiders' request for comment. Hundreds of American vehicles will arrive in Vlissingen, southeast of the Netherlands, before they make their way to Eastern Europe to strengthen their military presence in the eastern flank of NATO territory. Dutch soldiers will help support the transport of the American Army Brigade through the country from early January to early February before it continues to Poland and Lithuania, according to a press release from the Dutch Defense Ministry. The Army Brigade includes 1,275 vehicles, including many M1 Abrams tanks, Bradley infantry fighting vehicles and other equipment, which will be transported by road, rail, and water to Eastern Europe. The brigade in question will remain in Poland and Lithuania for 6 months. In December, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg called on NATO member states to supply more weapons to Ukraine. "I call on allies to do more. It is in all our security interests to ensure Ukraine prevails and Russian President Vladimir Putin does not win." A week before, the U.S. announced nearly $2 billion in additional military aid, including the Patriot air defense system, which offers protection against aircraft, cruise, and ballistic missiles. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un attends a ceremony where new super-large multiple rocket launchers were presented before a plenary meeting of the ruling Workers' Party of Korea in Pyongyang, North Korea. In this photo released on January 1, 2023 by North Korea's Korean Central News Agency, KCNA. KCNA via Reuters. Seoul South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol said on Wednesday he would consider suspending a 2018 inter-Korean military pact if North Korea violates its airspace again, Yonhap News Agency reported, citing his press secretary. Yoon made the comment after being briefed on countermeasures to North Korean drones that crossed into the south last week, calling for building an overwhelming response capability that goes beyond proportional levels, Yonhap said. Inter-Korean relations have been testy for decades but have grown even more tense since Yoon took office in May, pledging a tougher line against Pyongyang. Yoon has criticized the military's handling of the drone incident, in part blaming the previous administration's reliance on the 2018 pact banning hostile activities in the border areas. He has urged the military to stand ready to retaliate. Yoon ordered the defense minister to launch a comprehensive drone unit that performs multi-purpose missions, including surveillance, reconnaissance, and electronic warfare, and to set up a system to mass-produce small drones that are difficult to detect within the year, Yonhap said, citing his press secretary, Kim Eun-hye. He also called for accelerating the development to produce stealth drones this year and quickly establishing a drone killer system, Kim said, according to Yonhap.